Dang it. We pushed the button.
Yeah, dude.
I wasn't paying attention. Hi, everyone.
I thought you said go ahead and push the button.
I didn't say push the button. I said go
I-
ahead and then you push the button. And that's just how this is gonna go. And this is how the last episode is. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Indie Council. We're in session. This is a place for the leading voices from across the industry to gather and talk news, titles, and everything indie. I'm your master of ceremonies, Jill Grote, the Indie Informer. And joining the council today, we have Judging from the Beyond, Mike Towndrow.
Am I dead?
Yeah, I assumed you kind of were,
Mm.
just from all of the stuff that you've got going on.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're not going to argue with me over the zombie kind of implications here.
Yeah, no. I'm back in Adobe Premiere land. Not my favorite place to be.
It's not a great place.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm at least past the phase. And I think, Jenny, have you ever done like the hands-on editing for Wholesome at all? At least you did the coordination.
I've done the coordination and like judging. I haven't done that, but I've done other showcases.
So you know, there's always a phase of like the house is on fire and you don't really know how things are going to turn out. I'm getting out of the house right now.
Bless.
Okay.
I'm so happy.
So, the house
there is a vision.
Yeah. The Furbies have set everything on fire.
Should I zoom in? While I introduce the next person. Go for it.
Wait, could you do an audio zoom just with your voice? Let people know what they're
scroll, zoom, enhance, Furbies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not gonna lie, one of them is missing. And I don't like that.
We don't know where it went. Oh my gosh. Okay. Also joining the council, besides the Furbies, perhaps we are losing Mike at this very moment.
I got tangled.
Ready for the reckoning, Janet Garcia.
Hello. You do indeed say a place for the leading voices instead of the place. Before we recorded last week, I said, do you say the place or a place?
You've just always considered this the premier space.
Yeah, you say a. So there we go. I learned something.
It's one place in which... Yeah, you changed the doc, and I just didn't... Mike is back.
It's back now.
That scared me more than the Furbies, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I'm sorry. I can try to change it, but now I've been saying this for so long, it just comes out.
It sounds natural when you say it
the way I say it.
When I read it, it sounded like, damn, you don't even think this is the place? When you read it, it sounded like you were saying a sentence.
Jill, you're too humble.
Something
just gonna throw it out there.
It's possible. Like, I'm not going to fight you on that. But like, there are a lot of places that actually there aren't too many places that connect all.
Don't tell our audience there are other places.
We're the only one.
They're like, wait, we don't have to be here. Hold on, let me grab my bags.
Are you telling me there's other video game podcasts?
No, not like this.
Not like this.
And
not like us.
Not like this.
Also joining the council, world-class appraiser, Jenny Wyndham.
Hello.
Hello. You did a lot of amazing things over the last couple of weeks while you were gone. I got to put pictures up of you that I got to pick specifically, and you couldn't stop me.
I did. So very good picture curator.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I was worried you'd be mad at me for the mushroom one, but I loved it.
No,
so
thank you.
Anything you want to hype up? Anything that was really cool while you were over in Japan?
I mean, there is so much, honestly, y'all. If you ever, just as a tip, if you ever go to Japan, try to make it longer than a week if you can. That is not any time there. But my cheesy tourist thing that I loved so much, I actually cried a little bit, was the Ghibli Museum, because they have all of the work there, like the original sketches and everything. Like no glass, no frames, no barriers. You can just get your face right up close to the artwork. And they had all of the environment art for The Boy and the Heron. And looking at those paintings, it's like the most beautiful still lifes you've ever seen in your life. I have never looked at a painting and been like, this is wizardry. What the hell? And it was amazing. So I think Ghibli Museum was my ultimate favorite thing to do there.
Okay, I need to go check that out.
Beautiful.
I'm thinking I might grab one and run. It sounds like the security's real lax. Mike, how you doing over there?
Yeah, Ghibli sounds amazing and all, but I noticed Shadow the Hedgehog was at the Sega store while you were also in Japan. Did you make time to visit the Hedgehog before his big day?
Sadly, I did not visit the Hedgehog, so I'm sorry to have disappointed you, Mike. I will do better next time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And on that note of love and friendship, let's talk about games we have been playing. I've got a cool amount of them, and one I want to talk very specifically about. So we're doing things a little differently because this is going to be our big episode, end of the year, final verdict episode. So I've kind of just cut indie news. It's happening. There are showcases that are happening starting like today onward. Go see those. They're all great. But yeah, let's talk about uh, games we've been playing. So one of the big things I know Janet and I have been desperately trying to get through to please Jenny to make sure she would not be disappointed with us at the end of the year.
Are you pleased with me, All Mother?
Oh, Mother.
Hecky Grace,
Hecky-
everyone.
Hecky Grace. So is 1,000 Times Resist. So Janet, do you want to jump into 1,000 Times Resist?
Yeah, our first mention of it on the show. I don't know how we met. No, I'm just kidding. This is a joke. Jenny has
Yeah.
obviously been spearheading this forever, but she definitely is not alone in, I think, the general indie space. This is one of the low-key breakout indies of the year. I would say it's not quite as breakouty as, stuff that hits the, TGA is kind of what we always use as the, like, this is the indie game that, like, got really marketed. And this kind of was a little bit shy of that. But I think a lot of people that do coverage of games, like, this is one of the indies a lot of my or our peers really have championed, that I've seen, like, the streets are talking about 1,000 Times Resist and have been talking about it for the whole year, because it came out pretty early in the year, I think, too, kind of in that first half. But if you are not familiar or need a refresher, 1,000 Times Resist is a narrative game, a quite lengthy narrative game. It's like it took me like 12 hours to beat. It's about like 10 hours, and it is semi spoilers for the first chapter, just because like the setup is kind of presented to you in a way that's like a little bit mysterious as well. Like, you start out in the game, you play as a character known as the Watcher. You start to kind of learn about the world, and this is a sci-fi dystopian story is sort of the simplest way to boil it down. But to give a little bit more information, again, you're the Watcher. You learn about the world as the player and see that, okay, you kind of live in this facility, and this is after this sort of alien disease essentially comes in and kind of kills most of the population, but there's one person that is immune, and that person ends up becoming who you as the Watcher know as the All Mother. And you can also do this thing where you do communion, or you commune with a memory and kind of learn more about the All Mother, who's also named Iris. That was like her human name, her history, and just kind of other history of the world before the world as you know it. And you kind of use that to inform your understanding and kind of faith. There's definitely a lot of kind of like a religious setup for the situation, where like societally it's like, oh, we all worship the All Mother, and the whole structure is kind of the society is based on the idea of you work, you do your functions. If you don't have a function yet, you maybe work it one day, you'll get your proper function, and then if you graduate, you can go live in the outside with the All Mother and fight the alien force known as the, oh gosh, it starts with an O.
The
Outsiders. The Occupants, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the general premise of it. And even that is, again, sort of piecemeal to you over time in that first chapter. And from there, it just continues to be a piecemealing of lore and the world to the player. This game is very much a super layered, super dense story, where many times I found myself being like, I don't think I know what is going on. And then a little bit later, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. And then a bit after that, I'm like, I don't think I know what's going on again. And then a little bit later, I would be like, oh no, and this is what's going. So it's definitely a story full of twists, intentional confusion, even like a bit of misleading, but really, really early on in the game, again, going back to that chapter 1 that I think is the kind of only thing you really want to talk about specifically, because everything else is like, would be more of a spoiler. Very early on in the game, you're sort of presented with a seed of doubt. And there's doubt in terms of, who really is All Mother, what's All Mother's intentions, what's going on with our society, how should you operate in society, what does betrayal mean in your society, and what is a good or bad choice. For the majority of the game, there are like dialogue options, but it's not really a choice game, with some exception. There's like a few choices you make in it, but it's more just like looking at the story and you're sort of flavoring it. So it's not like you get to necessarily make these big choices on like who you want to be, but you sort of see the watcher as she is and see her come face to face with her own kind of faith, like the perceptions of other people, and kind of grappling with this history. And there's like a bunch of like layers of, themes and motifs, like about resistances, political resistances, cultural resistances, but also like a lot of things talking about interpersonal relationships, race and racism, self-hatred, friendships, girlhood, motherhood. There's like a lot to unpack in 1,000 Times Resist. It's funny because we did the mouthwashing spoiler cast, a few episodes ago, and talking to y'all about that game, I'm like, wow, I like understand it and appreciate it on like a much deeper level. This is a game where I feel like this is a book club ass game where it's like it would take so long to really break down what's going on. I've talked for a while, so I want to pretty much wrap up my bit here and here. Jill, I know you've been playing it as well, but the last thing I kind of really want to shout out about the game, what makes it special, spoilers, I think this is a great game, and the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, damn, this game was like really good though. Is it has some really stunning cinematography to it, like the way they shoot and present things. I think this game really goes in artsy directions, but with a lot of intentionality. I think sometimes we think of like an artsy indie game, and like we all know sometimes it doesn't stick the landing, right? And then when it doesn't, it kind of just looks like you trying to be deep, you're trying to throw things in there. But like in 1,000 Times Resist, like there's so much intention behind everything happening, and so much depth. I lied. The last thing I want to shout out is it's voice acted. So it's a big story game that has voice acting, which is really expensive and really hard to do, and it's why you don't see it a lot, especially in the indie space. But definitely makes it a really chill play in that sense. Because one of the harder things about story games is like, damn, you gotta read a lot. Which I know it's like it's not as much as reading a book, but I think for a lot of players, at least myself, it's like sometimes it's like not your favorite way to experience a story. So the fact that it is voice acted is like, oh yeah, you can basically just walk around and then you just go on a ride and see where that train takes you. But Jill, you were also on the journey.
I was on the journey.
Not disappoint Jenny. How did it go?
I think there is something amazing about a game that is able to tie like a lot of themes that you talked about, but also like trauma and generational trauma, not just between on 3 separate levels. You've got human generational trauma, you've got societal generational trauma, and you've got historical generational trauma. And it's historical, like literally connected to real life history that is continuing to repeat itself, which makes societies within the game continue to repeat itself, which makes people continue to repeat themselves. And it's about that journey of breaking that cycle for basically all 3 things. If a human being can break the cycle for themselves, can they break the cycle for everything? And that's a really amazing thing to be able to pull off in a game, and to do it in such a way that it's like I have to stop and think very seriously. I love how we're trying to be really deep, and Mike's over there trying really hard to be quiet, opening his Celsius.
No, that was actually me opening a Red
Dang
Bull.
it.
How dare you?
Wow.
Janet, you should have just let that go. You should have just let
Also
that
on
go.
some on this sounds dumb out of context, but obviously it's contextual to the game. Thing I forgot to mention, clones. You're a clone.
Yeah, you're a clone.
Like
it's
also
kind
the
of important.
clones. Yeah, but that's another aspect.
Yeah.
That's like a main aspect of the game where like you are a clone of All Mother. So all the sisters like look the same in terms of their facial structures, but they all have like different designs and stuff and
Right.
color associations
And like
and other things going on.
having grown up a twin, there is some personal nuance there for me where I'm like, that's cool. Like to have that feeling connected to something that I am playing. You don't get that very often. I think for me the hard part is for me the story I don't the story for me didn't hit until chapter 7. And there are 10 chapters in this game. So I'm like, I am playing this for Jenny. I have to get through for Jenny. So I'm really glad that it did pick up, because up until that point I was just like, okay, I see your themes, I see what you're doing here, but I don't know if this is going to catch me. And then it did it at chapter 7. And yeah, the gameplay itself for me was the kind of weak point, and not uh like there were some things like minor, like clipping through things and like technical things, but also just like I got lost a lot. I don't know about y'all, but like
Bro, yeah, like
I'd be
that
running through. I'm like, where is
it
this
was like you
person
were
I'm
in a
supposed to
mall you've
find?
never been at, and there's not a very clear waypointing system in the game. At some points there are like markers that you can bring up. There's also at some points a map, but one, not every chapter had the map, and two, the map is sort of intentionally a little bit simplified or like abstracted as well. So yeah, it's just, and there's not a lot of short cutting in the design. And there's also like a lot of long ramps. So it's
Yeah.
like
I'm like, oh,
go down
dang
that
it. I
long
went
ramp.
every time I thought that one ramp was a different ramp. And I'm like, no, it's just the same ramp. I'm going up the same ramp.
I will say I felt a little bit in the designer's defense. I felt a little bit embarrassed that even by the end of the game, I'm still like, they're like, okay, so go to the garden. I'm like, gotcha. Damn, I really
I know
thought
where that
it was
is.
here.
Mhm.
I really thought I was like where it's at. Yeah, I agree with you on that note, Jill. And like for me, this is a game that didn't resonate as deeply as it did for I think a lot of other people, where I kind of went in expecting to be like, and then like it's gonna be one of the best narratives I've ever played. And even though it kind of in a technical way is like it is very strong, it just didn't do for me what other games of this ilk have done. Like, you know, and granted, I'm comparing it to like some of the best ones of the genre, like, you know, freaking What Remains of Edith Finch, Before Your Eyes, like those types of stories. I found I latched onto in a much stronger way. But I still rank this pretty highly in my end of year stuff, which I know we'll get to, because it is just very well constructed, and I think it's doing a lot that it does shockingly well. Like I think this game definitely should have fallen apart and not made any sense, but it actually made a lot of sense. And the further you look into it, the more interesting it is. And I think that in itself is very impressive, even though it's not necessarily as beloved for me as I think it is for a lot of other people. I'm still like, damn, they kind of did that though. Like I gotta give it to them.
I'm totally with you, Janet, on that. And then like because I'm a weird duality kind of person, there are still moments and like discussions in this game that I'm still thinking about. Like that scene on the
Same.
stairs with the mother and the daughter, and I'm just like, that's gonna
It's
kill
shot
me
really nicely too.
forever. Yeah,
There's some
and I'm
really
just like,
beautiful like lines in the game too that I don't really want to give away because they were impactful for me. But like there's a series of videotapes that like you sort of like see get recorded at one point, and like some of those lines I was like, damn. Like it didn't quite hit the level of what my bar is for media being like gut-wrenching, which is like Interstellar, the watching back the clips, like I was your age. Oh god, Interstellar is so good. It didn't quite hit that level, but it was like reminiscent of it. I like I felt a bit of that idea of, you know, family and honesty, but like love. And I think there's like a lot of cool stuff written in here. Definitely a game of dope screenshots. And then it's also like I think the lore is just really fun, like getting to like post about this game and have people be like hair to hair, and it's like, I see you. Like I don't know, it's kind of fun. It's like, it's weird to say that the fandom has been fun because it's like a narrative game that's like a one-off narrative game, but it is kind of cool. I don't know, just having had the experience and stuff.
100%. Jenny, are you proud of us? Have we done it?
Yes, I am. Again, Hecky Grace. Yeah, I think I really enjoy hearing like the critiques that you have of it and the ways that other people are like connecting with it and the way that they're not. Because like I know for me, this game was kind of like my Venba of this year, where I think a lot of my connection with this game came from this idea of like diaspora and like sort of what it like this definition of home and what does it mean to like look back. And I know that those personal connections were there, so like I know my bias is very high towards this game, and I love hearing, like, I totally agree about the map, and that was, you all played it after they added a map. And I played I played it pre-map, and I spent so long running around that darn, what do they call it, garden. Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing.
Wow,
So
pre-map.
yeah. So you all had the map version.
Jenny got credit here, you
I
know?
It's just like,
Wow.
yeah, I remember back in the day. No, but I love hearing people talk about this game because I think even though it's not like everyone's favorite, I think it's evoked some really interesting conversations, and people seem to always come at least with like a line or a moment that like sticks with them. And I think it's really fun to again be a part of the fandom and experience that.
I saw Mike unmute.
I haven't had time to play the video game. I'm sorry.
Mike,
Damn.
what the
Jenny's
hell?
disappointed.
Oh
I've
my
only-
god!
Mike, I was up
I've
till,
only-
I was up
I've
till
only had
2
8
a.m.
months.
finishing this game. Yeah, I was like crunching at this game at the last second where I'm like, I gotta beat it tonight or else I'm not gonna be able to finish it in time. And I was like, well,
I'll take your
here we
word for it.
go.
Yep,
a
gotta do
little
it.
longer than you think, but yeah, definitely like I think it's too. I was a little not surprised because I kind of knew the runtime going into it, but it's definitely one of like the longer
Mhm.
only story games I've played where I'm like, damn, they're going for like a long time, but it never felt like long either. Like I didn't feel
Right.
like anything dragged in the story. Yeah, it's really like interestingly constructed. And it's definitely one of those games where like the second you finish it, like again, I just kind of went to bed because I'm like it's late, but I will like I want to immediately go 1,000 times with this story summary, like ideas, you know, different you know, again, there's not really a lot of differentiation per playthrough, but there are some things that can be different. So I kind of want to immediately look up some of those differences. I also think, I mean, there's like a lot, again, just kind of going back to it having a lot going for it. There were things I was doing in early chapters where I'm like, you know who I love talking to? This person. This is such a good time. And then later it's like, this is a core element of the game. I was like, oh, they like knew, but it felt so like subtly woven into, I think, the construction of the game. This is sort of an obvious comment, but I do think it's something that I'm learning talking to other people that aren't as into narrative games as I am. It's really just a read for Isaiah, honestly, but where this is a narrative game, but in the style of, you know, a walking simulator. So, and it's heavy in the sort of slice of life construction of it. So like you have to like that kind of stuff to want to play a game like this. And I think you'll know that from listening to us talk about it, like whether or not something that like is of interest to you. But like, you know, going back to my example with Isaiah, like he likes story in games and has like some walking sims like Edith Finch, Gone Home, and the ilk, but wasn't into the idea of playing this one besides the fact that it's a little bit more abstracted, and I don't think he enjoys like that kind of construction. But it's also the kind of game where it's like the fun of the game is going off the beaten path a little bit, like doing some of the sub objectives and just like talking to people and like I'm gonna go to the library and see like what they think about this book, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like if that isn't giving you the gas for it, if it's not juicy to you, you like it's not going to be a kind of like game that I think you're going to necessarily want to experience, because that's the construction of the game, like kind of similar to Life is Strange. Like I love that construction of, because I like walking around. I mean, Life is Strange, you know, you look at like an apple and then the character is like, oh man, apples. I remember my mom used to pack me apples, and I'm like, yeah, I love this. Is great gaming to me. 1,000 times this isn't quite as slice of lifey, but it is similar in if you don't want to walk around and like overhear a little chatter and kind of do these extra things. I think you also get a lot of more clarity in what is going on narratively by doing those things as well. So it is that style of game, which I find really fun, but I know it's not necessarily everyone's bag.
Yeah. Speaking of games that may not be everyone's bag, I got to jump into Lorelei and the
I thought you were
Laser
going to
Eyes.
toss to Mike.
No. We'll go.
What are
we'll
with
go
all the
with Mike.
fucking shots tonight? It's the holidays.
He's just
Be nice to
sitting
your
there.
boy.
He's being watched by Furbies. He's trying to be
Christ.
good.
I'm gonna go back on mute.
So
Talk.
Opening
Lorelei.
Celsius's and playing his weird games, you know.
Yeah, he's just over there murdering carrots or something.
It's like, oh, when it's time for Jenny's clones,
The
no one
boxes
says
are empty.
anything, but when it's
Okay, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes on PlayStation. Having played this, not all the way through, but I think that this may be the way to play this game. I think the DualSense is a really cool feature for Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, because for anyone who hasn't played it, it is a very like RE style puzzle game with no action really to speak of. So a lot of the action, so to speak, is in the solving of puzzles and the like fiddling around with things and unlocking doors. So for this, every single time you like choose a number from the dial wheel, or you unlock some kind of lock, or you're opening something up like one of the tubes, like there is a really satisfying sound that goes along with it. And I don't know why, but that just really makes this game just that much better, and more involved and a little creepier too, because there's this game
Mm.
has such a creepy overtone, and it's not scary. It's not like zombies are gonna eat you or anything, but like there is just, I feel like this is just the way that is the best to experience it. So if you have not gotten it and you're looking to check it out, uh Lorelei and the Laser Eyes on PlayStation might be the place to do it. But I don't know, Jenny, where did you end up playing?
So I finished Laurel. That was like my goal was, you all were in 1,000 Times Resist, and I was like, I gotta finish not 1,000 times Laser Eyes.
1,000
A,
times Laser Eyes.
1,000 times Laser Eyes, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Um, I do kind of wish I had, because it's the kind of game where I don't think I'm gonna play it again, but I really, really enjoyed my time with it. I kind of wish, because like I think on PlayStation it would be really interesting with how the haptics and stuff to play, but I played it just on PC, so standard, boring. But I think I initially, so looking at it, I thought it was much more horror than it actually ended up being. So I think for
Mhm.
folks who are like, "Ooh, I don't really like horror games," though, know that it's like there's more tenseness than true jump scares or like gore, things like that. So that's just something in case you were unsure of engaging with it. Basically, I think this feels like point and click adventures modernized in a way that feels so very good. I love
Yeah.
point and click adventures. I think they're so much fun. Um, this felt like a really fresh take on the formula, and it's about this woman who's invited to this sort of abandoned hotel mansion in Italy by this artist who's like, I need your support to help me with this like really amazing, incredible project. And so the game really just puts you like into the action immediately. There isn't really too much tutorialization, and I loved it. I felt like the puzzles were so much fun. It sort of intentionally obfuscates and like kind of makes you work for your knowledge, but I love games that do that. It's non-linear, which I thought was really, at first I was like, oh my God, am I gonna do this right? Am I gonna like lock myself out of things and break the game somehow? But um it was just really fun to play. And I think for folks who like the types of games that you have to take notes, like I took pages of notes for this game, just to keep
Take a
track of
picture
stuff.
of your notebook, because every
Yeah,
single
okay, I
person
will.
who took notes in this looks like a serial killer in their notebooks. I
I was
love
gonna
it.
say be prepared, but I took notes, and it was like, I love games that require that. Just because for me that is like my favorite way of engaging, is feeling like I am deducing and putting things together and like seeing it come to fruition in front of me. I especially loved this game because it's from the team that did Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is, when that game came out, it was one of my favorite games of that year. And this was just fascinating because it was also such a stark difference, because Sayonara Wild Hearts is like colorful pop, um, like a soundtrack come to life, and it's like sort of this, not an endless runner, but it has that arcadey runner feel to it. And this is like not necessarily the polar opposite, but it is incredibly contrasted. Everything is black and white with pops of like this sort of reddish magenta occasionally. It's much more like, where Sayonara Wild Hearts is like go with your gut, kind of go with the flow, very reaction based. This is very like deductive and much more methodical. Um, and I thought it was a really wonderful follow up. And when you get into the themes, it talks more about like creativity and just sort of the nature of art, which I always love, that kind of like, let's get a little bit more heavy with like our theming here and sort of like the meta text of what's going on. So I think if you like that kind of game, this is a great one to play. Games like, I don't know, like the Outer Wilds, Lucas Pope fans, like I feel like you would probably
Mhm.
enjoy this. Yeah, so I'm glad I finished it in time for end of the year.
Yeah. I'm glad you finished it too, Jenny.
Yeah.
So now we just have to wait for Mike.
I have not played the video game.
But you have played, it seems, Anton Blast. Would you like to tell
yeah.
us about that, Mike?
Yeah, I'll tell you about the big Splody game. Yeah, so I played a bit of Anton Blast. Obviously, Tony, a dear friend of ours, a friend of the show. If you're unfamiliar, Anton Blast is essentially a love letter to the old school like Wario Land games. Think more recently, think Pizza Tower, just kind of run and bash and platform around. It's I guess like a weird modern way to put it. It's kind of a extraction platformer in a way where you reach the end of the level and then all of a sudden a timer hits and you have to run back to the very start using a different path. It is such a vibrant, bonkers, adrenaline fueled fun time. I probably only played about hour and a half, 2 hours. I played at least up to the first boss and then maybe a level or two after that. It's fantastic. It feels great. It has a lot of collectathon elements in there where there's like secret exits and secret collectibles. Has a nice flair of like Crash Bandicoot in there. Like get the good vibes of just how wacky and precise some of the platforming has to be. But yeah, I'm excited to play more of it. I haven't played too much because obviously there's other things happening. But yeah, it's been a nice just kind of like let me step away from Adobe Premiere for a bit and just kind of like turn my mind off and jump around a little bit. But yeah, and it seems like he's crushing it, selling well, reviewing well. Super proud and super stoked for him.
Congrats to the team. Jenny, I really want to hear about this because it's something I would have played, though I knew I was going on vacation, so I wouldn't have the time. Great God, Grove.
Yes.
Give me the lowdown on that one.
I am not yet done. I've put in maybe about like an hour and a half, I would say, into it. So full thoughts pending, but I think my first impressions are quite strong. I think this is a really lovely, solid game. It's by the publisher's Fellow Traveler, and the developer is Limbo Lane, I believe. And this is a narrative sort of adventure style game where the main mechanic is as you walk around, words are kind of highlighted essentially, and you can use those in conversation. You can like suck them up like a vacuum basically and use those words in conversations with other characters. And the main tension is that you're in a world with gods, and sort of you're having to navigate the relationships between like the gods and sort of each other gods between gods, but also gods in the general population. And I think this is really, I started playing this because a lot of folks requested it, and a lot of people said that they were really excited about it. So I honestly almost completely slid on by this game. I was like, I forgot that it was out. I felt so bad because the demo was really interesting. And so far, I think it has delivered on what the demo promised, which is like a really strong narrative experience with incredible style. If you take a look at the game, it's got this sort of 2D, I don't even know what it's like. I don't even know what to call it. It's kind of like got a Paper Mario feel in the animation, but the just expressiveness of the characters is incredible. And you have just tons of color being used. It's a little bit more muted. It's not like hyper saturated like an Ultros, I would say, but it's like still very colorful. But what's really cool is that they bring in moments of like puppetry, which sounds really unhinged. But they have puppets used within cutscenes of this game. And so what I think is really neat is that you get this sort of like almost tactile experience where you've got your Paper Mario style visuals that are extra vibrant and like filled to the brim with just detail and color and pattern. And then you have these vignettes with puppets, which I find very entertaining and amusing. So from a visual standpoint, great. Overall, I feel like it's probably going to be a game that's like very like hopeful, optimistic, and it doesn't go into like the cynical narrative, which I think is also nice. So if you're looking for something more upbeat, this is probably a good choice to play. And I don't think it's going to be super long. I feel like it's like a two or three session game for me. So hopefully by, I guess, the time we get back, I'll have final thoughts.
I love it.
Yeah.
Another one that falls under that category of just like easy breezy, like positivity game is Mythwrecked Ambrosia Island, which is coming out, I think, the day that this podcast is hitting.
I believe so.
Y'all, this game is just so relaxing. Like, it's definitely like a summer game, and it doesn't even matter that it's not hitting in summer. It's like it's winter right now. Who cares? You're jumping in. You're in the Greek islands. It's sunny. It's warm. You're on the beach. You're having a good time. That's what this game is. Basically, you have shipwrecked. You've tried to be spontaneous, and you went out on a boat and you weren't expecting to, and the boat has now crashed, and you're sort of like embracing radical acceptance because you're just on this island and you're now all of a sudden in the middle of a bunch of like Greek gods and they're asking you for things and you're like, okay, this is my life now. This is all I'm doing. I'm staying here and I'm helping the gods, So we like first you meet kind of the gods one by one. So the first person you run into is Hermes. I love, y'all know that I am a Greek mythology nerd. So seeing how all the gods have been interpreted are hilarious. And Hermes is just this kind of like middle-aged, chubby, like, but he's still only got like a little loincloth on, and you're like, okay, that's the way he's going. That's the look we've gone for here. Oh gosh, little baby. Got distracted.
There's a cat here.
There's a cat here, in case anybody's not watching.
And the cat looks fancy because its paws are white, so it's like it's wearing
Yeah,
gloves.
fancy
Tuxedo
baby.
cat.
We're doing acrobatics, everyone. So yeah, you
Continue.
are running around and you're talking to. I'll try as best I can, unless the cat does something really cute again. You're just trying to like increase their friendship level, and by doing that, you're doing things like finding items that they've lost. You're trying to recover some of their memories. You're trying to bring them special ambrosia fruit. And it's all like super easy. The quest is set. You know what you're supposed to do. You go and do it, and you're just sort of vibing on this island. It's not gonna push you too hard in any way. It's beautiful to look at. I love the design. I'm super excited to just, anytime you need to unwind and relax and like, has it been a stressful week, month, year? Like, this is kind of the game to just sit back and turn off your brain and be happy for a little bit. So yeah, that's Mythwrecked Ambrosia Island. Mike, what is Arrow GPX?
Arrow GPX is a wonderful love letter to F-Zero. It's one of those games, if Nintendo ain't going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. And there have been plenty of other attempts at F-Zero and that formula, but from the little bit I've played so far, it came out on early access, I think, sometime in the spring, maybe April. They're hitting all the right notes. Visual style, the speed, obviously, the vibrant characters. They're really hitting what all of us F-Zero sickos have been looking for since the GameCube F-Zero game. Excited to play more, but yeah, I like briefly jumped into it just to like give it a shot during the Steam sale. This is one of my Steam sale purchases.
Oh, nice.
But yeah,
And
loving it.
Is Slider also? Because Slider is a game that's been on my backlist, but I have not actually jumped into it.
So Slider, obviously, he's been on our radar since we've had Daniel on the 6-1 showcase in March, I think. I think it came out earlier in the summer. It came out. It's totally free. It is a free video game.
July 24th, 2024.
Yeah.
Just looked it up.
Totally free game. When we spoke with Daniel, the reason it's free is because it was a project by a bunch of his fellow students, and he didn't want to figure out how to split the money.
Split the check.
So yeah, it's a if you're unfamiliar with Slider, it's top-down Zelda, but the core mechanic is it's a sliding puzzle, like I don't know how you really describe it. Flat little thing with like usually 9 squares, and you have to move the pieces around in a puzzle to usually make a picture. In this game, each little square is a segment of the map, and that's how you manipulate and traverse the map, is like you're moving these sliding pieces around to solve puzzles, get into dungeons, reunite characters. It is like I feel like a lot of people have slept on it this year, maybe because it was just like a stealth drop free thing right after SGF and right after all the announcements and stuff. But go back and play Slider. I've only played about 15 or so minutes so far. Janet, I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
I had to stop for a little bit.
I go on the
But
list.
yeah, if you like puzzle games, if you like Zelda, if you like adventure games, like it rules so far. It's really hitting all the right notes. It's really
Oh,
impressive.
the art looks really cool.
It's real
It reminds
cool.
me of
It's
Minute.
Downwell
very-
almost.
very minute
It's just
down
black and
well.
white. It's
Yep,
black and white.
Yeah.
But
But it
even
also
like I would
has, like,
say,
a
even the
plush look to it.
exactly, even the character designs and stuff like that plush look is very minute. It has like a very soft look to it. There are times where there's like splashes of color in there that really help it pop. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. A lot of people definitely slept on it, and I hope him and the crew do a lot more, and hopefully, yeah, people check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and jump into this during the break.
Yeah,
'cause
same.
it's a long list, y'all out there.
Mhm.
I know everybody on the council and all y'all out there watching, like, this has been a wild year for indies. Last year was also a wild year. That list is just piling up.
Dude, guess
So,
what? There's December things we can't talk about yet that are also piling up.
they're also coming.
Ugh,
Like, I keep getting emails, and because I'm bad at
If
vacationing,
you-
I check my emails.
If you come out in December, this is a 2025 game.
Yeah.
I was like,
100%.
this seems cool for me to cover next year.
Next year.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
December does
glad
not exist.
all of us as the nomination jury for the Indie Game Awards, we decided November 1st, that is the next year.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's perfect. The last game I think we're going to talk about for what we've been playing is a game that when I started playing for real, I've played this before and didn't get into it for reasons, but when I started playing this for review coverage, I Discorded everybody in the Indie Council channel and was like, this game is gonna be my entire personality. And so far it is. I have been playing Infinity Nikki, and I am so in love with what this game is. Jenny is just lit up. That's made me more
Mhm.
nervous to say what I'm saying. But Infinity Nikki is okay, it is a conglomeration of so many things. I know that this is a series, and this is like the 5th in the series. And I've never been a fan of this before. It seemed, though, like the previous ones were much less dimensional than this one was. So far, and I've not gotten through the game because this game is going to be a like 100-hour type thing, but it is a mix of like open world adventure with crafting and quest kind of structure in that vein. Kind of Pokemon collecting and categorizing of things, but instead of creatures that you are collecting, it is outfits, which is amazing. It is kind of a like Mario-esque star collectathon in there as well. You also get some cool platforming abilities. It's got the RPG stats where when you do a thing, the stats increase. So it's just got so many different things in here. And then the one thing that I am cautious about, and I want to shout out from the top, is that it's got the kind of Fall Guys monetization system. So like y'all really want to be careful about that. And it's not even just like real life money going into it, but it's also got like multiple different types of monetization going on at the same time, and like in-game money as well. So I'm like, they've made it a little confusing as to like, what does this do to what is this, and convert this to that. So like you kind of forget that it's real money. So be cautious about that. So that's really my only drawback to this game, but you can 100% play it without putting money in. And as I was kind of looking around at the reviews that were popping out today, friend of the show, Giovanni at Digital Trends, put this in a way that I was feeling but couldn't like articulate it quite as well. So I want to read a bit from his thoughts on this piece. And I'll link this down below as well. As he says, Nikki's a character that shouldn't feel as fresh as she does when it comes to female heroes in modern mainstream media. Even the most progressive heroines can fall into archetypes. Sometimes the instinct to flip gender roles entirely and place a female hero into the ultra cool, gruffy guy role. Nikki, on the other hand, gets to be unabashedly feminine without being looked down upon for it. There are no moments where she self-reflectively monologues on the nature of being a woman. The sexy outfit pieces she can acquire aren't designed around the men's idea of sexiness. Infinity Nikki may very well be the first and perhaps only modern game of its scope built for a female gaze instead of a male one. And I'm like, that is such an like I was feeling that the whole time because I'm playing this game and I'm like, they're not making fun of Nikki. This game is earnest in what it is doing. They are taking seriously this trope that you see in all kinds of games where like you're the chosen one and you are going into a secret society. Just so happens that the secret society is about stylists and picking your right outfit. And there is a certain like permission to just be, things that you generally don't get to be in the gaming sphere if you are also a feminine identifying person. Like, it is so cool to see all of this and like for it to just be a thing that is happening and for other people to be appreciating it at the same time. I mean, like in any game that I play, I am so excited to check out all of the like costume things, like Red Dead Redemption. Everyone loves that game. It was super gritty but like some of the fun of it was going to the stores to get like I want to get the coolest like coat. I want to make sure my hair is so. Like this game is just that and I kind of love that that's just the main focus, but it's also not a throwaway fluff bubble game. Like there are real like all of the genres I just talked about, all of the mechanics, like it is really fun going around and like collecting stars and filling out my catalog for the clothing that I'm finding, looking for resources that I need in order to create the clothes that give you abilities. So like the clothes will do things like let you jump and hover in the air or like capture bugs or something, go fishing. All of these things are tied to actually wearing a specific outfit that you have to craft piece by piece. And if you don't have the materials, you have to go out and get the materials and come back and craft it. And you have to find the schematics for those particular items of clothing. So until you have done all of that, you can't go and you can't pet pets, which was like for the longest time my biggest critique of like there are so many cute things running around. I don't want to pet them. And then I got the grooming
It's like an animal
costume.
cleaning
Oh,
outfit.
it was so good. I'm like, yes, this is everything I
And
wanted.
when you
this
clean
game
them, you
to
get the
be.
fluff, and then the
You
fluff
get the
you can
fluff.
use
It's
to
a
like
new
craft.
resource. Oh, I love it so much. Yeah, and there is no looking down, like Gio said, of this character. There is no patronizing of this game to the player or wink, this is stupid kind of thing. Like it's all taken very seriously, and there are some really like kind of dark things in the scope of the game as well, and there are things that are large epic kind of branching quest lines. Like this is a like
It's very
a
anime
yeah,
narratively.
it's got, and it's like it is a real game. Like it's not just oh dress up your doll sort of thing. It is doing all of this stuff and doing it at full speed, I guess.
Mhm.
Has anybody else gotten able to jump into this yet? Because I know, Janet, we played it at Summer Game Fest, but it was a weird. It wasn't.
Oh, not
No,
Summer Game Fest.
it
GG,
was
not
PAX
GC. The other
West,
PAX, yeah, PAX, where you just like,
and it
they
was a
jump on a
weird.
station and
It was a
figure it
weird
out.
thing. It actually
Like,
was so weird to play it there and not have any indication of what you're supposed to be doing or whatever. So like getting able to start from the beginning and see the narrative and have a tutorial that tells you what you're supposed to be doing really changes the way that this game feels.
yeah, I played a bit of the beta as well, the closed like beta that they had, and yeah, I'm excited to get hands on with the full thing to get it a little bit more, just fully formed and spending a little bit more time with it. I also couldn't figure out how to lock on when I did the closed beta, and there is a lock on. I forgot how to do it still, but I'm excited to finally have a lock on because that was one of my big gripes with the combat, as well as it just kind of being. I think the feel of the game, if it still reigns true, is like a little bit sluggish. It's like not quite as zippy as I'd like it to be. But other than that, it was like generally like solidly constructed. So I'm excited to see what else there is. There's like a million options for like the character customization. It's based on the whole thing, but like they did it really well where it's like down to just like really specific minuscule accessories. I know there's a component that I didn't really get time with yet that is sort of doing these fashion battles with other people where you like make an outfit. If your outfit like hits certain stats like against like another one, like you win this thing and then you can gain like extra stuff. And there's like obviously a bunch of like gotcha stuff in this as well, which you like sort of touched on. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it fully forms. It's definitely the vibe I got from my time with it was it is sort of baseline, kind of a simplistic open world game. But what I need from this game is for it to just be good enough because I like the hook enough. And I think that's really what the Infinite Nikki is about in terms of like branching into this, first time on console kind of thing. Obviously, it'd be great if they like somehow whipped up like legit Breath of the Wild inside of it. Like that'd be like mind melting. But I just need it to be good enough because I like the hook of it. I like the idea of we're going and we're doing these lifestyle elements and we also have fashion and we sort of have additional like things to latch onto to enjoy that core gameplay loop of the fashion. So I just need that to be good enough. And it feels like it's probably just about there where it's like, I would love for it to be like, continue to grow and gain polish and this, that, and the third, but good enough is going to be good enough for me. So that's what I'm hoping it'll hit. There's also some pretty like solid level construction too with just like visually. I think the game like looks really, really, really nice. And they like, I went to one area that was like this series of, it was like an old library where like wishes are in there. There's like some funky lore stuff. It's like, yeah, this seems like this could be a fun time and a thing to go back to and sort of just like sit and enjoy. But yeah, I'll definitely be dipping back in to, I don't know, get to cover this game. Like I'm excited to like cover it and like talk about it because I think it's also the kind of game where like a lot of highly specific stuff in games media, when it's too specific, I think we kind of lose some coverage of it. This happens with like sports sims, racing sims, and obviously not everyone can be everything, but like I'm excited to take the most intense game critic formal lens to a game that most people are like, oh, I don't know, it's this little thing. It's like I love doing that for these kinds of games, like these cozier, cute games, because I think so often we don't get to have those conversations because they're seen as like, oh, well, it's just this cute little thing. Like, why would I ever look at it seriously? But I'm excited to like look and unpack and think about, what's going well, what isn't. I do think it also may be hitting against those walls that you often get in games that put the player in a position to be creative. This happens a lot with like Pokemon Snap, for instance, where what's the thing we all hate about Pokemon Snap? The fact that it doesn't know what art is, right? It's like, well, to get the most points, you have to have this. It's like, I'm curious how much of that I'll end up feeling in Infinity Nikki when I play it. Like, will I feel like, well, to do the fashion battles, I have to sell out to make my actual, I'm curious, like the different ways that they will lean into things like that player creativity and that sort of making your own fun. But yeah, I'm excited to have just a construction to lean into because that was my big critique with not an indie game. I'm pretty sure I'd have to check the studio, but like Fashion Dreamer, I played that last year or early this year. Super fun, lots of some cool things to do, but just not enough there to. I'm like, I want an excuse to keep playing this game, and it didn't quite have that. While Infinity Nikki, it's like, sure, it's a basic open world game, but like, get in line. I've played a lot of those and had less fun. So it's like, okay, if this can kind of get enough going for it, I think it'll really, really be a good time. And obviously, it's Infinity Nikki. They're going to make like $1 kajillion off this game, which I'm kind of excited to just like to watch what happens with this pursuit into console and you know, see how the ongoing support looks. I mean, clearly they're a studio that also just knows how to do that kind of thing because they've been doing it on mobile. So we'll see. My first real time with like a gacha game, I think. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Minus the gacha moment in Tears of the Kingdom where they give you that giant orb to get like stuff from out of nowhere. But
gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, it should be a fun time. It comes out, gosh, Friday. So by the time this goes up, it's out
like tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Thursday.
just in time for the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this feels like a good like crack a cold one with the boys and just start putting together some outfits. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm so excited to take pictures and send them to you guys. Be like, look what I did. Because like my first outfit, of course, they put you in like the cute ruffle thing, and I'm like, this is great and all, but like the first outfit I put together for myself was just like a cool pair of boots, some like straight leg jeans, the coolest cropped leather jacket you've ever seen, and I'm like, I look cool. So
well, it's funny
it really
like,
is.
The fashion is the end game for every major like Destiny, Final Fantasy. It's like by the time you play, the fashion is the end game, and so it's like really exciting. Yeah, exactly, to see that like you're taking rid of getting rid of the rest of the stuff. You're getting fashion from the jump, and I think that's really fun. And to your point, Jill, I think in the article you cited, what makes me really excited about indies, but also like what got me into sort of the wholesome game space in particular, was this idea of taking certain genres and mechanics more seriously that have not been taken seriously, and also for finding new ways for us to like engage with verbs in games. And I think this is a great example of how far we've come, where I remember like back in the 90s, especially 80s and 90s, there were a ton of like girl games, and for better or worse, they were what they were, but we haven't had a lot of that until recently. We've started seeing like with the cozy and wholesome games kind of come up, and now with Infinity Nikki, it's really cool to see just how far this type of game has come and the ways in which like people are now increasingly taking it serious. So I think this idea of like fashion being power versus like a big sword or something like that, I think that's very, very cool. I have not played it, but I am really excited. I am apprehensive about the gacha stuff, but I'm very hopeful and excited to play.
And there we go. That's what we have been playing. It's time to move over to the big topic of the show, the Indie Council's final verdict. This is going to be a list of 10 games, the official top 10 of the Indie Council. It is based on a simple 10-point system. Everybody put their top 10 list together. We combine them. We've calculated out if you put a game at number 1, it gets 10 points. If you put a game at number 2, it gets 9 points, so on and so forth. This year, unlike last year, there were no ties. So we had an immediate reveal of what our games were going to be. For transparency, I had on there that it was fine to put DLC expansions, early access, but I don't think we ended up with any of that on the list. So
yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah,
I was like,
actually
you said
avoided.
I could, but I'm like, I choose not to.
Yeah,
that's if that's y'all just pick.
It's my right as a voter.
2024. Yeah. So let's. Oh, on top of that, before we actually get into revealing the top 10, last year we decided alongside with all of the games, we just made up a bunch of like award categories, and we also decided that would be the categories for every year thereafter. So now we have a list of awards which
wait. I thought what we had decided was that we'd use them for the next year, but then also come up with new ones that we then use. Like, so it's always like a year behind almost of the joke. That's what I thought
I
we had
mean,
done. But
if that's how
No
y'all
rules,
want to
no
play
gods.
it, no rules, no gods. I'm down for swapping out some if you're thinking about some. But yeah, as far as I understood it, these are no longer, we cannot move them. So the ones that we currently have for this year, maybe not, who knows what happens, is going to be the Goobies Gang Award.
Man, remember Goobies?
Goobies.
yeah, I never
Those were
forget.
the good
Never
days.
forget. I'm a New Yorker, Jen. I never forget.
Oh, God.
Not like
How
other
far did we get into
Sims
this
awards.
podcast for? An hour? Okay, go on.
Do I need to
Just-
repeat myself award? That's literally an award. Spin Me Right Round Award. The Hex Appeal Award, which is still one of my favorites. Thank you, Jenny. The Chants the Rapper Award.
Shout out to Chance
First-
Sonar, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
First Out the Gate Award. The Kool-Aid Man Award. Just Lil Guy Award. Slipknot Duality Award. And Let Them Cook Award.
It's fun revisiting
I think,
these.
May I be so bold?
yeah.
Just give Arctic eggs to let them cook.
We don't have
And you
Arctic
think-
eggs on our list, Mike. We
It's
can't
okay.
do it.
I think we
Oh,
need to
can
make
it
the
only
exception.
be-
No rules, no,
Here's
gods.
the thing.
No rules, no
the thing.
Can
gods.
it only be?
I
Can it
know
only
which
be
one
from the
I
top
want.
10?
I know which one I want for Let Them Cook. And it's going to be messed up a little bit.
Listen,
So-
there's
Oh,
11
no.
categories. We have 10
I know
games.
what you're thinking.
Wait.
No. 11 categories because Goopy Gangs is a very special award where we all
Okay.
decide what we loved together. So
Mm.
we'll do that. But the math has led us to our top 10.
Yeah.
Is everybody ready to reveal the Indie Council's official top 10?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Number 10.
Bow, 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 bow.
Another Crab's Treasure.
Ooh, yeah.
Congratulations, Mike.
Hey, I am very surprised to see this. Who else put this on their list?
It was you. It was you.
It was just me.
It was just you.
Oh
You
shit!
put it high enough that it was
Hell
able
yeah.
to hit at
Yeah.
number 10.
This is America,
So,
baby.
Mike, can you tell us about this game?
Another Crab's Treasure, I think, is the pinnacle entry point into anybody who is curious about the Souls-like genre. It is a vibrant, wonderful, funny, brilliantly written video game about a little crab just trying to get his home back. It's about capitalism. It's about garbage. It's about little guys. And man, I adore this game so much. I know I am the only person who is pretty high on Another Crab's Treasure here in this room. But as somebody who really adores this genre, and for a From Software launch this year, this was my favorite Souls-like of the year. I think it just hit all the right notes for me. It has a wonderful pace, a wonderful structure in terms of narrative and adventure, and most importantly, the combat rocks. Like, they really nailed the combat, which is very hard to do in the genre. So many folks have released From Software like games, and even with just the slightest kind of like it won't click. It just doesn't work. And Aggro Crab really should be commended on how much they nailed the assignment. Like, sure, it's not anything like extraordinary or it's not doing anything super special in the grand scheme of things, but between just like nailing the feel of it and obviously just making it just really accessible for folks who have been curious about the genre, but maybe are a little too scared to try to get into the genre or feel intimidated by hard boss battles, hard combat, all that kind of stuff. Man, the game rocks. And also you give the crab a gun. Come on.
Yeah.
And it's the squirrel's gun. I still can't get over that. And even outside the gun, like, the accessibility options are phenomenal. Like, you could slow down the game, you could prevent you losing all of your I'm just gonna call them souls. When you die, you could prevent from losing your souls, no pitfall damage, stuff like that. Like, there's so many options in there to really make it a welcoming experience. And I adore this game.
And that was
And all-
number 10.
and all of
Another
you are
Crab's
wrong.
Treasure. Yeah. Well, it's a
Crow
Wow.
loves you
top
too,
10,
Mike.
Okay. Number 9 on the official list, we have Nine Souls.
Ba-ba-ba-bow.
This one is pretty much just
This
me.
is the soul
This
section
is
of the list.
This is
Yeah,
the
it
soul
is.
section. Yeah, Nine Souls. Oh my! I had not finished this game. I went back and looked where I was. I was at the penultimate boss, and I only had like an hour left of the game. So I watched the ending instead of actually fighting through because I didn't want to like do that thing where you're under pressure and so you hate the game because
Sure.
you have to finish. Um, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go back and see what happens at the end because this is a multi-ending kind of game, and I think I've done everything for the ending that I want, but we'll see. It is I am so mortified that this game is not in more places and not more recognized throughout the industry, because this is Nine Souls is developed by Red Candle Games, which previously did like scary things like Devotion, is one of their more popular ones, which also got them sort of banned of everything essentially, as there was a tiny joke about the Chinese president in the game. So like conspiracy theories are the only thing I can go to when I see that this game is not more loved in all the spaces, because it is essentially a 2D Metroidvania Sekiro. And it is so good at that from a team which should not have been able to pull that off. It is so incredibly brilliant in the way it feels, in the way that it's overcoming challenges, the way you have to get used to the idea that the game is not about hitting things, but about deflecting things. It is, as the team calls it, a Dao Punk game, and that is so cool. It's like all of the like from the mechanics to the combat to the narrative to the flow of the game, it's all like kind of cycled through Taoist beliefs and what is happening on all levels reflects that. And it's so brilliant when a game is able to do that on so many levels, and it does it so fantastically that when you get a boss and you figure it out and you've managed to do everything 100% on point, you just feel so powerful and so good. And nothing about this game is like hinky or like stuttery. Everything is beautiful. The artwork is so incredible. You have these moments of, I mean, just any level in the game is beautiful, but like confrontations between characters, and you get these like amazing kind of manga strips that pop up that go into black and white. Then you are going through like walking in people's soulscapes and like their own realities, and it's really cyber and it's really ancient and it's all combined into one thing. And I am so in love with this game that, man, I need so many more people to play this. I think that maybe next year when people have kind of had time to play it, they're going to be like, "Oh man, more people should have played that. I can't believe it didn't get
I
the
hope so.
flowers."
Yeah.
So
That's one
I'm just
where
not good at the game.
Yeah, I put it
At
down
these
because I was
games.
like, I'm not doing great, and I want to finish a game, so I put it down for a little bit.
I believe
That is
in every
honestly-
one of you. I think there
you.
That
is
is so valid.
I think there is a
There's a story mode.
Yeah,
There's some setting
essentially.
stuff, but then the thing,
I don't know what
I'm
it
a
is,
little
but
stubborn.
I'm not good at-
so...
That's fair.
yeah, I'm not good at these games in general. Like, I actually haven't tried Nine Souls yet. I have been convinced to at least give it a shot because so
Janet,
many people
you beat Nine
are into it.
Liza P.
Shout
Come
out to
on.
Barrett.
I didn't beat Liza P.
Just go with it.
It's okay.
But yeah, like it's obviously very beloved. But one thing that, and obviously, like it's totally valid to just play it on story mode. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But I do think in a game like this, it is worth noting that the juice is the combat, and I feel like maybe they did a good job tooling it where it can still like be difficult, but like more achievable. It can kind of scale down to fit my skill level. But I think what I kind of already fear going into this, and that's why I put it off, is like, is the easy going to be too easy where I don't really get what makes it good, and then the hard is too hard for me to you know what I mean? So I'm like, I think it's best if I just stand outside and I go,
Two thumbs up.
two thumbs up,
I
thumbs
think
up, and I'm just like,
if you never get to experience the combat of this game in that way, like just go and watch the story as well, because it's also just really touching and interesting, and it goes places that I was not expecting it to go. Um,
Yeah,
so
even that
yeah,
like
shout,
opening 20 minutes, half hour is so like outstanding.
yeah, and you're like, I don't know what's going on, but oh my god, I don't want to look away. Yeah, shout out to Jacob Geller and Barrett Courtney, who both love this game and have been shouting it out with me. So we love you guys. Now on to official number 8. Never. I feel like there should be, thank you, some sort
Yeah.
of like sounds that we
woo,
play.
the crowd goes wild.
This
I also
is
think the
another
bottom of
one-
this list is interesting in that like it's what sort of because it's inherently the stuff that was like maybe less agreed upon. So it's interesting seeing you know how things surfaced in it, who the like who the person behind the name, you know.
yeah. And the people who are talking are not necessarily the people who voted the highest for it. Sometimes I just wanted to make sure people got time to talk, and sometimes I'm like, I'm really interested that you put this on your list. So but not in this case. For me, I put Never as my number 1, which is how it got to this
Oh.
place
Hell yeah.
on the list.
This is your
Um,
crab.
This was
This is
my
your crab.
crab. Yeah.
Wow.
It is
This is my crap award.
this is my crab. I'll put it down. I'll put it down as a
I got
switch
you.
out.
Go for it.
So yeah, this is a game that I think I did in one sitting. And I couldn't stop. I sat down, I started playing this game, and I was like, it's the most transported I have been. There is nothing that is like, say with like a 9 souls, you'll have to go back into that boss over and over again, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna take a breath. Like, Neva is smooth, buttery, beautiful, like literally the most beautiful game perhaps ever. Like, there is an argument to be made that this tops even Gree in the beauty of a game, which literally I could put every single snap of this game on my wall and it would be fitting. The emotions that you feel in this game are enhanced by that. What the environmental storytelling is happening there, it bleeds into kind of what is going on and how you're feeling about things. I love the pared down combat and platforming. Because I think Gree, as much as I love Gree, like, I think there were some moments in the platforming where I was just like, I need to not, like, like it's just a little trickier than I want it to be, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to do here. Never had those moments for me. I was just like in a flow state the whole time. And so you're in this kind, like, for me, I was in this suspended moment of beauty and feeling and pure emotion in a way I don't get to experience a lot as a game critic, because most of the time you're sitting back and like looking at like, okay, I see the strings that are being pulled here. Okay, I see how this worked, or here's this flaw here. And I was just in I was just a fan of games again. And that doesn't get to happen to me a lot, and I absolutely loved it. So Never, 100%, my number 1, and the Indie Council's number 8. I really hope everybody gets a chance to play this. I know that Jenny Jenny was like immediately like, oh, I should have put this.
I know. I was like, oh, I totally blanked on Neva with my list. I didn't even include it. I felt so bad.
Don't worry, I got you on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 7, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Whoa.
A dinosaur is walking by. It's amazing.
Oh my god. That was incredible.
Where's that from?
I was
And will
like,
we get
how long
sued
is
for
this gonna
that?
go?
No, we're good.
Okay, great.
That's
I
amazing.
don't like the
It
way
is
you
not
did.
Jurassic Park.
It did kind of sound like it though. Jenny, tell us about Lorelei since you just finished with it.
Yeah. Well, I realize now I summarized it earlier. I think for me, what put it up on the list, and I forget exactly where I ended up putting it, but I ranked it highly because this year there were there were a lot of really thinky games this year, and I think this one for me was one of the stronger ones. It channeled everything I love in a point and click adventure, but streamlined it. I think they made some choices that I was like, the one button
The
to
one
do
button.
everything.
Yep.
I wasn't really a fan of that, but
I'm gonna put the map somewhere.
I
You
know.
know?
But I think overall, this game gave me what I was looking for, which was a way to like feel smart, take notes, and like go on this really incredible, very film noir journey mystery. I think also for those who enjoy narrative that gets you thinking about stuff like outside of the game, this nature of creativity of the consumer, there's some really good stuff to chew on even post game. And the fact that it came from a studio that I think does outstanding work previously, and I hope to continue to see work from them. I'm just very stoked on Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and I think any puzzle game, mystery game fan should check it out.
Yeah. Plus, you can pet a dog at any moment. So,
Yeah.
just throwing that out there.
I was waiting for the dog to like. I don't. Well, does the dog
Jump at
actually,
you.
I don't want to. Well, not that he jumps at you, but does he have like a puzzle thing?
No, he's not the
I kept
answer
waiting
to
for
a
that
puzzle.
to happen. You know, like
But there is a reference that puts the dog in a somewhat different and maybe more disturbing light than.
yeah, he's like
Yeah.
someone's soul's inside him or something. I'm making that up. I didn't beat the game. There's something up with
Jenny
that
and
dog.
I are
was
like
I
looking
don't
away, like we don't know
I
anything.
don't know.
I'm like, I just, maybe that's the strings we're talking about, Jill, where I'm like, something's up with this dog.
Something's
Anyone else
going
not
on.
trust this dog?
Well, I mean, some of what is going on with the dog and some of what I really love about Lorelei is that it is like RE likes were a thing this year.
Yeah.
It was a trend. And if you know kind of the history of Resident Evil and dogs,
You're afraid
you
of
sort
dogs,
of
yeah.
expect something else to happen
Yeah.
at this moment. And the fact that they play with that and can like mess around with your expectations is
I like
another
that
reason why
too.
this game is so good. Okay. That was number 7. Moving on to number 6. UFO 50.
I feel bad for the other games that didn't get any music.
That didn't get that. We'll go back and we'll play them
No,
again.
we'll go back.
Retroactively.
That's okay.
Yeah.
we got
In
like added
post.
crickets in. Just silence.
So Jenny, you had this
Oh.
pretty high up on your list. I was interested to see.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but when I really sat back and thought about it, I think UFO 50 did such a great job of making me feel refreshed about games. I think in similar ways maybe Neva made you feel. On the surface, I was not actually super interested in UFO 50. I was like, it's got this like super retro, like 80s style. It's a collection of games. I'm sure, in my head, I was like, I bet these games aren't going to give me a ton to work with. And then you dive in, and essentially the premise of UFO 50 is it's a collection of 50 games created by this fictional studio, and you can play them in whatever order you would like. And as you play through, you're not only playing each of these fully fleshed out games, but you're also learning about the history of this studio. And so there's this wonderful sort of like extra layer of not quite narrative per se in that traditional sense, but you are getting this sense of history. And I think the game did an incredible job of not only getting me interested in each individual game and feeling like I can hop in and try something new, but I really became invested in this studio and like sort of their journey as a team and like what they chose to make and why. It's almost impossible to really delve into one, like there are 50 games in this game. So you're going to probably find something that matches with your taste and style. I really found myself diving into, I think it was like number 4 or 5, Magic Garden, which is essentially this like snake Puyo Puyo clone. I spent hours and hours playing just that before
It's
I
so
even
good.
got to, it's amazing. It's like bright and fun and really incredible. This game has pretty much every genre you can think of, honestly. It's got point and click adventure, it's got horror, it's got 3 RPGs, like actual full RPGs
like
in this
full RPGs. It's wild.
It's incredible. So I feel like when I was sitting and thinking about what really impacted me this year, what I kept coming back to, I was actually quite surprised to see UFO 50 was up there. And it's a relatively, like, it came out second half of the year.
Yeah.
So I think also that surprised me when I was even looking at playtime, how much time I've spent with it since it's launched. Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I'll shout out Grimstone. I think that's the name of the RPG. It's like the Wild West.
The one that's like the Wild West one.
Oh,
yeah. That was
And
so
you don't
good.
know you're picking your characters when you're going around talking to people, and you're like, oh, okay, that's my party now. I hope I picked okay. Valbrace.
People
for
die
me
really
was
quickly, and they're in like body bags.
Yeah.
What's the first person dungeon crawler?
Valbrace.
Oh, that's
my
Valbrace.
favorite.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very good.
It's so
There's
good. I've spent
one-
so much time in that.
There's one that I hated, but I loved, where it was like you only had 3 lives, and then you had to die to use your body to like get
Oh,
to
Mortal.
Oh, Mortal, yeah.
Yeah.
Mortal
that
1
was so
and
good.
2.
And
Yep.
2.
I forgot the
yes.
name of it, but the Splatoon racing.
Yes,
game.
the
Oh,
paint
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, that one was so good.
Yeah. I wish the names were maybe a little bit more
Mhm.
less. They're very retro names, also, where it's just like
Yeah.
this kind of seems like it's a noun, right? Like one of mine is Velgress, which is I think that one is just like a hard platformer, basically in UFO 50. They have a couple. Honestly, their platformers are really strong. I also liked Party House, which was a
Oh yeah.
kind of take on puzzle strategy where you're like inviting party guests over. Night Manor, cool point and click, and then
Mhm.
Pilot Quest was really cool too. It's like an idle game, which I really need to like go
Ooh, I
back
haven't
to
played
because
that
you can
one.
just, it's an idle game, so you can just leave it running. I'm like, I need to leave this running just all the time, but I worry the Steam Deck will literally
Explode.
catch fire if I try to, yes. Yeah, the Steam Deck kind of, well, now that I hooked my Steam Deck up to my TV, it can kind of suffer in silence because since I'm not holding it, I'm like, I think it's probably doing fine, right? Like 6 hours of 1,000 times resist at max settings. I think it's okay. It's probably like burning
totally
under,
good.
getting melted into the IKEA calyx that it's sitting on, but I don't know.
Janet, I'm so happy you made that
Out of
plunge
hand, out of mind.
to
plug it
dock
in.
it. Oh, it's a game
Oh,
changer.
yeah.
It's so good.
It literally feels like you have a new console. It's like,
100%.
oh, this is
Awesome.
It's
PC
amazing.
console TV.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really great. I think too, UFO 50, it's like, besides being kind of the most iconic bang for your buck in gaming history, I
Oh
feel
my
like,
God, yeah.
Eat Your Heart Out Game Pass.
The best deal in
This
gamer.
is Indie Game Pass is UFO 50. I think similar to you, Jenny, because this was pretty high on my list as well. Or at least kind of like middle of the pack. I think it was at 6 for me. And even on my regular top 10, I think it's pretty likely it's going to stay in my like general top 10, including AAA, because the more I think about it, the more it's just like, yeah, this like kind of eats. The games are just of such high quality, which is really surprising because when I first kind of heard of it and even got hands on with it, I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but like, okay. And then when you spend a little bit more time with it and if you approach it with an open heart and an open mind, you'll be like, is it just me, or is every game low key its own, could really stand alone and be something we talked about like in a given week, versus I think what the assumption would be, which is that like, oh, well, these are going to be like mini games, game jammy, like kind of quick hits, but they're just like so cohesive. I think too, they just do a really incredible job like mimicking the trajectory of what an imagined franchise can go through. What does it mean to have a console life cycle, especially back when there would be so much technological innovation within a singular cycle. So they really replicate some of that. Like this, it's so cool. Like I hope they do like get, picked up to do like cooler stuff with it. I would love to see like a mini console, like a mini UFO 50 console. I think that would be sweet.
Yes.
And not to, I have a bad habit, but it's also like, I do kind of find it fun of comparing things to other things in order to be like, this is like a kind of a better version of this. But I do think this kind of hits for me what I wish I felt a little bit more with like my relationship with Playdate. Now, granted, Playdate has a really specific hardware, which kind of just changes the relationship with the games. But like
How dare you?
that idea of a collection of cool stuff, like I think if you could not afford a Playdate, you should at least buy UFO 50, because I think to me it scratches that itch of wanting something unique that feels like a curated collection of smart indie stuff. And while like software wise, Playdate does have that, you know, it kind of has other things going on with like the hardware, and it's just kind of its own thing. This is like it's its own thing without the hangups of needing the hardware aspect. It's just super cool, and I feel like I'm going to be playing this game kind of forever because there's just so much content there. It's really good.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the things that's brilliant about this game is that it improves as you talk to people about it, because there is a meta layer and you can talk about that. But also, even just now, as we were talking about some of our favorite games, people are naming things that perhaps neither of us have played, or people in the audience that are listening haven't played, that they're like, oh, I need to go check this out. So yeah, it just continues to keep getting better and better. And I so wonder what would have happened if one of these games had released into the wild just as itself, if we would be talking about it more, or if because of their collection and the meta narrative, it isn't. Like, I really am interested about whether or not these games would be like, would we have UFO 50's top 10 on our top 10, you know? Like, it's interesting to think about.
I think at least one of them would have broken through. Obviously, with indies, it's the discoverability is tough, and also just the sheer amount. Like every week, there's like a gajillion games coming out. But I feel like across all of us, someone's gonna pick up some of these. Like of the ones we highlighted, especially I know like me, like on the platforming side, I feel like one of those would have been surfaced to me, and I would have probably gotten into it and potentially sort of listed it. So, but that's kind of what's nice about it too. I think where it's the ability to quickly get a bunch of stuff, which if you're a fan of indies, like you live for spending a little bit of money to get 8 million of the best experiences you've ever had for like $10.99. So I think it that's what's also so fascinating about it. I think it really leans into a cultural component that is kind of unique to indie games, which is like the idea of a bundle. Now, obviously bundles do exist in the AAA space, you know, like back in the day, you'd get these, you know, collections of like PS3 was big on that. You'd get like split ones that have like 2 games. Spyro had that trio of its little trilogy in a bundle, but it's not something you see as much anymore. And this is just kind of like a different context for it. Yeah, it's just a very fascinating project with also really high quality games. And I think that's an important component, because I think it's easy to look at this and kind of assume that's being praised because it's like, well, it's really like creative, and it is really creative, but it's also the games are good. So it really has both going for it in a way that you never saw before, and you probably will never see again because it's such a specific angle. Yeah. Probably also isn't commercially as, you know, like viable to replicate. But yeah, what a cool time. It's like it's just such a fun, like imagined window into a time that never existed. Like, this thing is cool.
100%. And with that, we're now in the top 5. Number 5, Animal Well.
Hell yeah.
Ooh, a new song.
Top 5.
I was sort of... gotcha. I was sort of worried that Mike wasn't going to play anything, and I was just putting that pressure on him to like push a button. And I apologize.
Don't worry, I have 31 minutes of this music, so we're good.
Okay.
Plenty of options.
Keep it going. I want to hear from Janet about this one, because I've heard her talk about this game before, and she put it so high on her list.
I did put it really high. Yeah, so, you know, I am Animal Well's #1 hater, but I am also a really good critic, so I know what I'm talking about. And it's like, look, this game's really good. It is just a really great game, and as much as like this game does have flaws and did piss me off, and I never want to see it again, it was really good. And I think what's interesting about these top 10 lists and like kind of what I like about them is it just kind of forces you to look at games in a little bit of a different context. Obviously, week to week, we're always talking about what we're playing, what we like about it, what we didn't like, stuff that we enjoy that maybe isn't, you know, at a certain quality, but we really like it. Stuff that is at a quality but doesn't connect with us. Like, we look at things from so many different angles. And I think a fun game to play, and I definitely encourage listeners to do this at some point just kind of for fun, because I think it's the thing that's funny about top 10 lists as well is that there's always a bit of like contention, and sometimes it's like over the top, and sometimes it's like just kind of for funsies of, oh, I can't believe they put this instead of this or whatever. when you sit down to make a top 10 and you look at games and you're looking at which game is quote unquote better than another, sometimes like the answer is just kind of facing you. And I got to this like actually really recently, because in my current top 10 on my website, which covers like both indie and AAA, I have Animal Well a bit lower than some of the other indies. And when I resat down to do this indie specific list, I was like, I think Animal Well is kind of like better in construction than some of these other titles. And it's like, what's better than that? I think there are answers for that. Like, I definitely think, I did consider listing other games that are on our list above it. So it's not like it's, was a crystal clear view for me, but I do think, considering that a lot of the other games surrounding it also have design gripes that I have, I feel like Animal Well's ability to do a smart, interesting Metroidvania with abilities that are creative and almost puzzly in themselves, I thought was really fascinating. I think the environmental design and the way they conjure up atmosphere, both visually and sound design wise, is super impressive. And it's like, yeah, like I have to give Animal Well its flowers because I do think it's generally well constructed. And I think if I was better at puzzles, I'd be a little bit more appreciative of the culmination of those puzzles. But because I am not, I'm a little bit just mad at it. And I also think there's a couple other things that I have beefs with. Like, I do think the fast travel is unnecessarily stingy in that game. I think it's a thing a lot of games fall into. It's also you could argue it's a taste and design sensibilities thing that I just have. Maybe some players enjoy that aspect in a game. For me, I never like stingy fast travel, especially when it continues through the whole game. I think at a certain point, it's like, hey man, just let me get over there. Like, I played your game already. Let's kind of just let's wrap it up a little bit. And a few other gripes with certain puzzles that require, I think, a lot of carry this item several rooms over. It's like, this is kind of a pain in the ass. But generally, Animal Well is super cool, and I think there's a lot of fun to be had in the optional discoverability of things that also just feels fun to do. Like, a lot of the side stuff I did in Animal Well that I didn't need to do was part of just like a general exploration that then I was rewarded by to see. It kind of felt like almost a more like a smaller version of what you get in a really well constructed like open world game. Like, if you think of like Breath of the Wild, where the cool thing about Breath of the Wild was when you went up like a hill that looked a little different, something was there and you're like, yeah, like I knew something would be there. And I think Animal Well was able to create that despite being in a two-dimensional, really small, tight space. And I think that is super cool. So yeah, and Animal Well is just a really strong title from this year. All my beefs noted, but it is a very good video game.
Yeah, I think as we get into this kind of section, this top half of the list, I think most everything in this section is on everybody's list somewhere. So it's really cool to see. But that was number 5. Number 4 is 1,000 Times Resist. Bow, bow, bow.
Spooky.
Oh.
Okay, Jenny, do you want to tell us about 1,000 Times Resist, even though we talked about it a lot?
Yes. So, in case you forgot a little bit earlier,
In case you
1,000
blacked out an
times-
hour ago.
Yeah, for those who are drunk listening to the show.
We got you. So, 1,000 Times Resist, you play this character named Watcher, who is one of 6 cloned sisters who all sort of worship this being called the All Mother. And through a series of wild events, non-linear cinematic events, you really just dive into this story that goes both back in time to a world that is facing essentially their own sort of deadly pandemic with which only one person is immune. And you also move forward into sort of this liminal time where you're not quite sure what is happening. But that is part of the joy that happens when you play 1,000 Times Resist, is you learn to sort of enjoy the ride and realize you're going to be confused at points in time. You're going to not really get the metaphors that they're putting down, but eventually it does become clear that this is a story about generational trauma, about love and relationships between mothers and daughters and sisters, about home, and really what it means to be a part of and miss a community even though you've never actually been to that place physically. It's one of my favorite, just in case you didn't know, it is one of my favorite games of the year. I think it's an incredibly strong narrative that also is about a specific audience and diaspora we don't hear from and get a lot of specific stories about. They bring in like the Hong Kong protests from around, what was it, like 2018, I think? I forget, 2019. But they bring in a lot of real world application into a very heady sci-fi space. And while in any other case, I would just be like, that may be a little bit too much. I don't know if I'm in for that much artsiness and that much sort of waxing poetic. Somehow it like magically works. And by the end, I feel like most people playing will be very invested in the story. And I think, I forget if it was Jill or Janet who said this earlier, but it is probably one of the most screenshotable games you will ever play. It is stunning. And what's really cool is like the dev team, they have a theater background, and you can tell, I think, in their framing, in their musicality, the choices they make, and the way that they even included the voice acting. So I think this is a must play for this year for sure.
Was this your number one?
Yes. To no
I thought so.
one's surprise.
This is also what I was thinking of, where like for me, Animal sits next to, like, I could talk, like, depending on the day, and today I just picked a day where I'm like, I'm gonna put Animal a little bit higher than I had before. But Animal, UFO 50, and now 1,000 Times Resist. And a couple, maybe like one other game, or kind of competing for that. What's the order? And it sort of depends on where my mind is at, because I think they're kind of on par in terms of like quote unquote quality. But yeah, like 1,000 Times Resist, it's sort of almost like Animal Well, where it's like it's not as beloved for me. It's sort of just undeniably really freaking good because it's really well made. Like if you know and appreciate stories, there's not really much to kind of complain about with it. And that seems kind of like a weird way to kind of go about it, because it's like, well, nothing was bad, so it's good. That's not exactly it. It's like everything was good, so it's good. It's like, yeah, like that was like really well made, like by the time you kind of get to the end of it. And I just, yeah, it makes, I'm glad that you brought the theater background, because that's definitely felt in it. And there's even like a theater kind of aspect to the, in the game and everything. So it's like, yeah, it is super, super interesting. And I like, it's a game where I just want to immediately consume people's content on it so that I can like feel like I'm closer to wrapping my head around everything that's going on in it. But I also think what's kind of interesting about 1,000 Times Resist is, yes, you do have to kind of pay a bit of attention when you're playing it, but I think it's weird how good it is at being very dense and having a lot to unpack, but also being like pretty understandable on a casual level, which I think is hard to pull off. Like there's not a lot of texts that have both depth and a casual enjoyment the way 1,000 Times Resist was able to pull off. So definitely, if you're listening, don't let the density scare you off too much, because I think it does a good job really making sure like you know what happened in the game generally, in a way that is not always true when you do something so unconventionally structured, I think.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, that was number 4, which means we're on to the Indie Council's official top 3. And I'm watching Mike absolutely
I'm struggling.
struggle with this. There it is. So our top 3, number 3 is mouthwashing. Oh, I thought it was going to be scarier. It's another dinosaur.
Story once again rears its head.
Well, Mike, would you like to tell us about this game you've infected the rest of the council with?
I'm so sorry, and you're welcome. Obviously, we talked about mouthwashing to death. We had a whole spoiler cast about it, but to whittle it down to a few words, I guess, I think it is such a hauntingly surrealist representation on how awful humanity could be. It is sure, technically it's a horror game, but it is I think it's a horror game because of some of the characteristics of certain people that gets put on display here in the short 3-ish hour story that they're telling. It's a game that will stick with you for months and months and months. I feel like we are gonna be talking about mouthwashing for quite some time into the near future, or maybe distant future. It's just I think it's an impeccable experience, front to back. And outside the narrative, I think just the way this game looks, the way it, excuse the language, the way it fucks with the players in terms of its pacing and technical tricks it does. It's the type of game that you want to just go in blind and really just experience a full blush and not really know too much about it. It was really fascinating sitting next to Kyle during Extra Life and watching him play it through beginning to end, and like in real time experiencing what his head was going through, of like he was going so like sci-fi absurd craziness, like, oh my god, there's monsters in the spaceship, there's clones, there's this, there's that, and it's just so much more human than that. And I think that's what makes it such a grisly narrative, and that goes like beyond video games, in my opinion. I think this is just a staple of like just a fantastic fucking story. This is my number 2 of the year for full disclosure, I guess. But yeah, mouthwashing rocks. And I think it really, I already really adored this studio. Like how Fish is made is fantastic. This is their previous game. This is their first, I guess if you want to call it like full blown video game, like a full experience. This definitely cemented Wrong Organ as somebody to look out on, somebody to look out after for the years to come.
Yeah, and definitely mouthwashing was one of those games that made every single one of our lists. We talked about it a lot, so it's real good. Y'all should go play it and go check out our spoiler cast after you play it and see if you think the same things we did. But that was number 3. Number 2, I think this is really fun to be the number 2 game. It is Balatro. Perfect.
You know what's funny? I was like, wow, this sounds like Balatro. I was like, wow, you really captured the essence of the game in that. This was like, I was shocked to see, not shocked, but I was like, ooh, number 2. What a fun spot for Balatro. Then it's like, what's number 1? The mystery.
That's what everyone's thinking in the audience right now.
Yeah. So how exciting. I mean, Balatro is really just well made.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Like Balatro's just one of those games. Look, we have I think a great spread of genre diversity in this list. I think this list, besides being a great list of games, really shows how many different kinds of experiences you can have in the indie space. And I love my story games. I got plenty of story games on my list. Balatro's all gameplay, baby, and it's so fun. Like it's really well made, and I think really easy to grasp in a way that you don't often get in card games, in deck builders. I think it's really fun. It is a rogue game, which I'm sort of averse to, but
same.
I suck at Balatro, and this was my game of the year for the indie game scene because it's just what like I got no notes for Balatro. Balatro was exactly what it needs to be. It's, I think, fun how, like any good rogue game, the hand you're dealt can create really fun strategic pivots. I also think it's construction for progression in terms of doing unlocks or playing with different decks allows for you to have runs with different intentions, which I think is a really fun way to approach rogues, as opposed to, nothing wrong with the more traditional thing. You know, you think of something like Binding of Isaac was the first rogue game I played, and like every time you play that, you're trying to kill mom. That's what the game is. The end, right? And here it's like you can have these runs where, oh, well, I want to accomplish this certain thing because I'm trying to I'm still working on, getting all the jokers or unlocking, getting all the celestial cards. So maybe you kind of play into what you might want to achieve in a run that goes beyond simply winning it, quote unquote. And it's, I think too, it's just really well made top down, the look, the atmosphere, the like soothing music. Like I feel like this game like lulls you into the flow state that it pulls you into, and I think that's really fun. Lets you toggle on and off the little old school screen looking thing. Like this game is dope. But where'd everybody else have this on their list? Obviously pretty high if it made 2.
I'm
I
probably the
had
one
it
to.
at 10.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm
I
probably the
was-
one to blame
was
for
like-
not. Yeah,
I was in the top
No,
5.
it was me.
I don't
You know,
remember
it was
where
tough
put it
because
exactly.
like
7.
I think I took this more as a personal because I think if I was going as more like critic lens, I would have put it higher, but I was like, I'm gonna make this my personal top 10
I love it.
that I ended up playing, like spent most time with. So for me it was a 10, but I do think it is probably one of the gameplay design wise one of the best constructed games of the year for sure.
It definitely speaks to like the fact that it is in the Game Awards. Like even if it had just been for one of the indie categories, that would speak to something. But the fact that it is up for Game of the Year itself,
But Jill, how
Uh,
could a silly card game be nominated for Game of the Year? That's crazy.
right? It's
This is the
wild.
chosen indie of the year.
Yeah.
Run, my child.
It just
Be
speaks
free with the
to-
mainstream.
And I think there's also something about loving the story behind it as well, and being this like mysterious kind of solo developer, and a game that when it came out, my review of this game came out at embargo, and it was one of the very few that did, and there weren't like that many people at the release of this game who loved this game. And as word of mouth and as it was sort of infectious, it just kind of caught
Mm.
on fire for the whole world. And it was just so much fun to watch that happen. And so you kind of want to root for it as well, which makes it this fun experience of being a part of the underdog winning scenario that I think is also a part of it getting up so high into lists. But yeah, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I only had it so low just because of how strong of a year it's been. Like
Yes,
the game
yeah.
rocks, but yeah, there was just other games that are more my speed. But yeah.
Before we go on to number 1, I do want to talk about how every year it's hard, but I think this year specifically was an impossible task to put. There were so many games. I think I had like 30 games that were in my short list of top 10, and just
Mhm.
having to go between them and like pick anything that was going to be in the top 10 and then figure out what rank to put everything in the top 10. I must have moved everything around. Like
Same.
Mhm.
things that were at number 1 to begin with, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll move this around. And then I had things that were at number 3 that ended up at number 7, and I think everything is so strong, and I think it will continue to be strong because we're looking at an amazing
Yeah.
next year as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a good time to be an indie fan.
Mhm.
Okay. Balatro was number 2. So what's our number 1? Everybody's asking it. Let's find out. Number 1. Grun.
Number Grun.
Number Grun.
Yes, number Grun. I love it.
Perfect. Mike, would you tell us about Grun?
Man, I just mentioned how mouthwashing fucks with the player. Grunt, man. In the
Mhm.
best way possible. Again, it's a totally normal gardening game. That's all this
Totally
game is. How could a totally normal gardening game be the Indie Council's number 1 game of the year? Well, let me not tell you too much because it's better to be not spoiled. We talked about it last week when Shannon and I finally got our hands on the game. It's just I know I struggled last week also because I don't want to like say too much. I guess Jill, you put it perfectly when we were talking about it for the IGAs. Like the gameplay design of this game is unmatched, in my opinion. It has such a steady and natural rhythm to how you go through the quote unquote story of the game, if you want to call it that. How everything kind of just falls into to place naturally as you're kind of progressing and going through loops. And I struggled saying that because, again, I don't want to spoil too much. It's just like every discovery, every moment of this game is like such a eureka.
Eureka, you got it.
Jesus, moment that feels just so rewarding and yeah, hard to talk about this game without spoiling it. It's another game that you should go into totally unfazed. Don't watch trailers, just don't read reviews, just go into the game, play it, experience it. It is a fantastic, like, if you want to do it as a one sitter, a few hours of your life, highly recommend playing it as with a friend. It was like secretly my favorite multiplayer game of the year, also sitting next to Kyle and like us slapping each other on screen when we were like discovering things. The game is so good, it's so rewarding, it's so fun. Yeah. So this was my number one of the year. Did anybody else have it as, how high was I the highest here?
I think you were the highest, but I think I had it in the top half. I want to say top 3, but I actually don't know if that's true.
Mine was
I had mine
number
at
3.
5.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it was in the top half for everybody. It's an amazing game, and it is not what you expect it to be.
No, and it
Which
keeps
makes it-
like spiraling in like the best way possible. I think it's also
Yeah.
a fantastic representation of many of ours mental state at the moment.
I
That's
think what I
possible.
really loved about it was as you play and as you learn about the world, the systems, the patterns that you are interacting with quite frequently, the game really subtly teaches you how to speedrun. And I felt
Yes.
very cool doing that. I also love that as a player, you could choose, like, do I want to do sort of this optimized version of the thing that I'm trying to do and like do this goal, and you set these tasks for yourself. But then there were times where I did play it like it was a gardening game. And I'm like, you know what?
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to chill right now and make sure all the grass gets cut, and I pick
Yep.
up all the trash, and I
Mhm.
like trim all the hedges. And I think this really, it kind of matched for me in terms of tone, Dredge, where
Yes.
you have this really
100%.
good juxtaposition of the relaxing flow state of it, part of the game, where it was like the fishing and the organizing your ship stuff, your cartons on your ship, you're cutting grass, and then there's the tension moment, and it's like, I think that sort of contrast is so fun, and I love it when any game does it, and this one does it really well. And there's this like lovely subtle humor and subtle horror to it that makes it just really rewarding to play.
I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of like that satisfaction with the speed running. It makes you feel like a speed runner. None of us are speed runners, but when I was like finding the little tips and tricks and shortcuts and whatnot, I felt like I belonged on the GDQ stage. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, for real.
there's so many fun little tricks, and I love the way they reveal it throughout your time of the game. Like, nothing is like spoiled, or nothing is like, they don't totally show their cards first blush, but like as you progress and I think, like, again, without spoiling, my favorite shortcut that we discovered playing it was, you don't have to use the watering can.
Mhm.
Just things like that. It's just like, you could have stumbled upon it if you wanted to with your first run of the game, your first grunt of the game. But it's just so much more rewarding after you like kind of go through the trial a few times. Then yeah, all of a sudden, like, all the items and all the pieces fall into place, and again, it's just that sense of reward and satisfaction. And yeah, that was it's for me this year, that was unmatched.
Yeah. And I'm not.
For me, this.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just a quick one. I am also not the person who typically likes to achieve in games. Like, I don't like to get the achievements. I'm not really a hunter in that way. I don't really try to max out all the endings. I'm not that kind of player. This game was I came close with Animal Well and I gave up. But this game was the only game that I stayed up and I played until I had basically unlocked every achievement, which for me was saying something, because that is very, very rare.
I do want to go back and 100% it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for. I imagine this is gonna get some console porting
I
at some
hope
point,
so.
so I'm waiting for
Yeah.
just like PlayStation, get the Grand Platinum, because I think that'll be
Yeah.
like super fun. This is really leans into what I am learning is my inherent style or like the puzzle game that I'm good at, that I like, that I can achieve, which is leaning more into environment. Also why I like Animal was so rough, because it's like kind of an environmental puzzle game, but then it's like put it all together and I'm like, I can't do that. I thought you were just an environmental puzzle game. But Grun really leans into what I feel like I'm often pitched on for puzzle games, which is like, you can just explore, and in exploring you'll figure things out. I'm like, I didn't figure anything out. And Grun, I actually felt like I really could do that, and I think it was really well constructed. Almost similar to Balatro and how you can play that with certain like objectives in mind. Like that's often how I played Grun, and really enjoyed my time playing that way, where instead of just trying to like replicate everything each run over and over again, I would sort of chase threads that would appear, in the world, where, again, I don't want to spoil any like the solutions, but it's like, okay, I gained this one item. I think I can use this one item this way. Oh, wait, but that's not available to me anymore. Okay, well, what time of day might this be available? Or when is this, when can I do this? And then kind of hyper focusing on just closing, tying a bow on that specific idea, and then being like, okay, cool, this is what I get from it. Really, my only gripe with Grunt is just that it does lean a bit on player memorization, which I just compensated by just writing down stuff, because I'm like, I don't know where these coins are, and this, that, and the third. But yeah, like it's just super fun to experience. It's really like tightly made. The space is not too big. I also just really liked how stuff would constantly be recontextualized for me in Grun, where I spent a lot of my like initial time really focusing on exploration. And it had those really nice moments of, you interact with something and you're like, cool, okay, let me kind of like make a mental note of this, sort of, because it stands out. Then later you gain an item and it's like, oh, this is the item that I needed to finish what they set me up for. I also really appreciated, the more I looked into what else the game had going on, like under the hood. I think at one point, like towards the very, very end, to like finish it, I wanted to make sure I was like doing something right. So I looked up some guide stuff on it, and that's when I learned just so much even more about the game that I like wasn't privy to through my playthrough. And also I think it's why it's cool watching other people play it as well, because I was surprised to find how many ways you could approach not just like, how you go about exploring and discovering the world, but like getting items. I was like, oh, I kind of assumed that like we all, did this and this is how we got this thing, but that wasn't necessarily the case. And it made looking back on it, it made everything so much richer. And this is just, Grunt is the gift that keeps on giving. I think, to go back to Jenny's construction of the list, if I had made mine purely based on like what's giving me that good dopamine, Grunt is probably like my number 2 game of the year. Like I love this game. It's so cool. Yeah, shout out to was it Sock Pop who developed this. Yeah, it's just really cool. It has some like fun trippy stuff in there too that I really got a kick out of. It's Grunt feels like such a playful game in the way its logic is constructed and what you have going on. It's like a little spooky, a little silly, and you get to garden also. If you don't know what to do, just start cutting grass. And I think that was like also a fun thing to lean on, where a lot of times when they have this like, oh, if you're stuck, do something else. I'm like, yeah, but the something else is just another puzzle. So like, what am I really going to do with that? I think having that gardening construction where it's like, if I'm really stuck, let me garden an area and see what might happen. And in almost everything you do in this game, something happens, which sounds a little silly like on its own without the context, but I loved how this game was so much if I do this, will something happen? And the answer was almost always yes. And I think that was really cool.
Yeah. I love the way that watching other people and talking to other people does open up the game a little bit. And of course, I don't want to spoil anything, but there is something that Mike did with the first item you get and a bird, which I had not discovered and was shocked.
Which coincidentally
happened.
was necessary to see a other thing. I was just messing around. Like I had no idea.
Yeah. So, that is our official first of the top 10 run. And now, to give everybody extra things to do, we're going to give every single game an award. So just to remind everybody, our awards list is not like other Sims. Do I need to repeat myself? The Spin Me Right Round Award, Hex Appeal, the Chants the Rapper Award, First Out the Gate, the Kool-Aid Man, Just a Little Guy, Slipknot's Duality, Let Them Cook, and then we have some suggestions for new perhaps titles, and that's May 9th and This Is My Crab Award. Okay, so first, number 10, Another Crab's Treasure. I wanted to specifically give, I think there is a very easy one for this, and it's Just a Little Guy. Just a Little Guy. Like, I think it's real hard not to argue that this is not the Just a Little Guy Award.
Yeah, because there's no other little guy really in here.
Yeah.
Animal Well.
This is. I know. I thought about that. But,
Yeah, he's a really little.
He's a real little guy.
Yeah.
but I think
He's
a
kinda
better
the-
one.
He's like the little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Krill
He's
is
just the
more
circle.
the little
Spiritually,
guy
The little
Krill
guy.
is yeah.
yeah. Spiritually.
Okay.
In a
Yeah,
metaphysical
he
sense.
has more
yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so 9 Souls. I think this one was one of the couple of ones where I was like, I don't really know which one to throw this one, so I went with Kool-Aid Man.
What was the thinking behind that one again?
Who the fuck
I
knows,
have no
Janet?
idea.
I also think
I mean,
maybe it might be time to
We're drinking the Kool-Aid.
fluff these up
I
a little
think.
bit and kind of. No, I think it's someone's.
Yeah.
It
bursting
might
through
be
the wall.
time. It's been 1 year.
Yeah.
It's been one
something-
occasion.
It might be time. Though it might
I
be
think-
the one and done situation. For
I
some of
think
these.
9 Souls works for this because, I mean, I'm taking all the meanings out of this phrase that I can. So I'm like, you're drinking the Kool-Aid was what I thought of. And I'm like,
I feel like that's
Nine
1,000
Souls-
times resist. I don't know.
9 Souls has a lot of drinking the Kool-Aid situation to it. And it's also like you do breakthrough stuff and it's like action-y. So I'm like, maybe that's where we're sitting for that.
Or maybe we could do because I feel like these were so specific to the games themselves.
No, we have to do it this year. That
Oh
is
my
that is the challenge we set
Okay.
ourselves. We have to give these.
pass.
Yeah, we dug our own
Um,
grave last year. We made a stand.
Yeah, what?
How
Okay.
about I jump to ones that I think are like dead ringers? They
Okay.
absolutely deserve what they get.
Yeah,
Hex
yeah.
Appeal,
Um,
Lorelei.
Hex Appeal. Where did I put Hex Appeal? I put that for Animal Well.
I mean,
I feel like
never. I
would
was gonna
go
say
Lorelei.
something. Nope.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
No, I had to stop
I
myself.
would do. I think I would do Lorelei for Hex Appeal.
Okay. I'm down. Hex Appeal,
Yeah.
Lorelei.
Yeah. Wait, can we here? Let's write because then I can't keep.
I'm
track in
writing
my
it down.
head.
Yeah, you go ahead and put it in the doc. I
Uh,
think Run is Do I Have to Repeat Myself?
Oh, that's very
Award.
good. Yeah.
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 Okay. Balatro is the first out of the gate, I think. I think it is the earliest game. I think it was February.
Oh, is that what that means?
Was it?
I think so. Yeah. I thought it was
Wow.
also like.
It was early. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was just that.
I
We
think
should've
that
taken
was
better
that
notes
was our
on
whole
these.
thought process. But I mean, I'm fine with changing the meanings of these as well. Okay. So okay. I want to make an argument here. Okay. So mouth washing, let them cook.
Yes.
I'm.
'Cause they
I
did that
think
game that one
I
time?
totally agree.
And the other stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other
if you've
stuff.
played the game, you know why
and the
that's
cake,
maybe a
yeah.
little messed up. So, but it's a really good one.
I think that I would fully agree with that. Mouthwashing is the let them go.
I forgot I had props for mouthwashing.
Oh, the
Oh
hat.
my
yeah.
gosh, you
Oh,
brought
I was
party
like,
hat.
what on earth is he about to bring out right now?
Is
Yep.
today our
Bottle of
official
mouthwash.
birthday? Of
Today is the one
year?
birthday. Yeah, the one collective
Or
birthday.
of their journey.
Yo, fuck Polly. You know what I'm saying? Fuck Pony Express.
Yeah. I think those are the only ones where I'm really invested.
Or for like the
Um,
categories, like to carry them
Uh-huh.
into time.
Oh wait, first out of the gate.
I kind of
was
like
Flush.
not like the other Sims, just because we do get a lot of Sims throughout the year. But I guess like if we need them to, well, I think here's the thing: inherently,
Okay.
if we need them to coincide with the list, it's never going to be
Could I?
as versatile as it could be if it was just open to any game that wasn't exclusive to our top 10s because there's like a lot of Sims that aren't like on our top 10.
Can I throw out
Yeah.
a little thought experiment?
Okay, thought experiment. Let's do it.
Is UFO 50 a sim?
I put UFO 50 as not like other Sims. So I'm with you
It's
on
kind of a
this.
sim, yeah.
kind of a
I
sim.
like this
Simulating
argument.
being a
It's got the-
console.
Okay.
Yeah.
UFO 50, not like other Sims. I liked Spin Me Right Round for Neva. There is an element of like cyclicalness.
Yeah.
Or Chance the Rapper, because you could say Neva whenever you want. You chant her name.
Neva. You chant a lot.
You chant
There's
a
a
lot.
lot of chanting in there.
There's a dedicated
Yeah.
chant button.
Or we just kill that
Or-
category because it's kind of cursed. It's a thing.
Ah.
It's specific.
We
It's
came
so
up with it. We
specific.
gotta do it. What do we think? Spin Me Right Round or Chance?
I like chants.
I like
Dedicated chance button.
more.
I just have
Okay.
a chance button, so sure.
Neva's going
Yeah.
to Chance. Okay, what do we still have? We have Spin Me Right
have-
Round.
Well, and we have more categories than we do. Are we not doing the new ones, the new categories we put down? Because otherwise, we have more categories than we have games.
Yeah. So if you want to substitute out the new games, we can do that, or the new categories. If you feel like obviously we've already put the Crab Award is not going to work because
Yeah, no.
we've already awarded
Yeah.
the Crab.
I do have a list of the May 9th games.
I do like the May 9th thing.
thought-
Yeah.
And I
What's the May
vote-
9th?
for May 9th.
I vote we keep that for every year.
Yes.
Let's see.
That's
So,
fun.
Animal Well, Little Kid.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna
Jeez.
read off all the games. I forgot.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Animal Well, Little Kitty, Crow Country, 1,000 Times Resist, Crypt Master, Corpo Nation came to consoles. That's it. Those are the big ones.
Okay, so we've got 1,000 Times Resist and
Or Animal Well.
Animal Well.
So it's
that
1,000
we
Times
need.
Yeah, those
Resist.
are the heaviest hitters. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
1,000
only
Times
thing on the
Resist.
list.
Unless, because like it could be May 9th game of the year. I think emotionally for me it is, but it also could fit with 1,000 Times Resist could fit with like the Slipknot's Duality Award.
I
feel
do.
like.
I put it under Duality, yeah,
So
because it's got
Yeah.
a lot of layers.
okay, so we'll
So
do
May
that
9th
because. Oh, go ahead.
May 9th Animal Well.
Sure.
Yeah. Whoops.
Okay, which means Duality for 1,000 Times Resist.
So we have
Yes.
two more: the Spin Me Right Round and Kool-Aid Man.
Now, one of those we've already knocked off because we used another
Which one did
thing.
we use?
So,
Oh yeah.
what's the only game we haven't put in yet? I think is it Nevo that we haven't put anywhere?
Oh, I thought Nova
No, 'cause
was
it's the
Chance the
the
Rapper.
No,
Rapper.
Never's Chance the
Yeah.
Rapper.
Oh wait, did I
Nine
not
Souls or
put
something?
Nine
No.
Souls down? You said it was Kool-Aid Man, so actually we already did Nine Souls.
Sorry,
Okay.
I wasn't prepared. Could somebody say where we put 1,000 Times Resist again?
It was the
Slipknot Duality.
May 9th. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. We won't get copyright.
Nice.
Demonetized
Just
immediately.
enough for a little taste.
Just a little taste, a
Yeah.
little teaser.
Just to taste it. yeah.
Okay,
Just
I think that's
just a
our
Slipknot
awards.
Yeah.
Sorry, wait, what was the Spin Me Around?
I think
Oh.
Spin Me Round was cut out
Oh,
Yeah,
it
because we have more
'cause
than we have.
Yeah.
because we added a new one. Okay, so our
Oh, we didn't
official
do the
awards.
Goobies gang though. We didn't.
Oh
actually
yeah,
do
we
that
need
one.
to
shit.
do our
Yeah.
Goobies gang. So I have some nominees, though we can pick whatever we want. But possible nominees include Crypt Master, Fields of Mystria, Fear the Spotlight, Duck Detective, Little Kitty Big City, or anything y'all want to throw out.
Arctic eggs.
Ar-
Throw it out there, but
I think Janet's gonna fight you on it, so I'll fight you on it too.
All the
I didn't
yolks.
really-
What better gang is there?
I appreciate
wouldn't-
what the eggs are doing, but it wasn't because it was. This is like the thing that we all.
I
we all
think
vibe
this
with,
thing
right?
we all
Like
played
the
and we all
underdog,
vibed
right?
with.
Yeah.
And yeah, we kind of want to nod to this game, even though it didn't make the top 10.
Yeah.
Obviously, my bias is Crypt Master. I love that
Yeah, I
game.
was
That
gonna
was
say
that was
kind
in
of
my top
Crypt
10.
Master.
I would
Crypt
give
Master
I would
for
give it to
me.
Crypt Master.
Yeah,
And I think
okay.
Hell
out of all the
yes.
like we had the most interaction with the devs. Like I think that works.
All the
perfectly.
beef. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then,
flirting.
our official awards of the Indie Council are the Goobies Gang Award, Cryptmaster, Not Like Other Sims, UFO 50. Do I need to repeat myself? Grun, Hex Appeal, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, the Chants the Rapper Award, Neva, First Out the Gate, Belatra, the Kool-Aid Man Award, 9 Souls, Just a Little Guy, Another Crab's Treasure, Slipknot's Duality Award, 1000 Times Resist, Let Them Cook, mouthwashing, and May 9th Game of the Year, our newest category, goes to Animal Well. Okay, well,
I will say it's actually kind of insane how well these worked. So I
Yeah,
rescind
I know, I'm kind of
any
shocked.
hesitation I had before.
they're
I
coming
was
back
wrong.
next year.
It was a trust the
So
process moment.
We'll see
So
what
are
happens.
we-
It actually is insane how good these
Yeah.
worked. So, like, I'm kind of
Yeah,
scared.
no, I'm 100% using all of these next year.
So are we allowing the
Yeah.
rule of we could swap out one?
Well, we will allow one swap
One
out.
swap.
Okay,
From here
so
on
every
out.
year we get like one little whoosh, shake.
Yeah,
shake
Yeah.
if we
One
decide we
edit.
don't like Kool-Aid Man anymore, just
Okay.
get rid of some of that Kool-Aid.
I
you know
will
what I'm
say
saying?
I want to shout out the Hex Appeal going to Lorelei and the Laser Eyes because I think one of the best things about that game is her sassy little walk down the hallway that she does.
Honestly.
Like, she is serving down those hallways. I'm like, you know what? So what if I walk this 8 times? She looks really cool.
Yeah.
100%. That's the Hex Appeal. And that's the end of this week's council and this year's last session. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Mike?
Before you do your ending ramble thing, just a quick plug since this is the last episode. Sorry, I can't find the hell site that is called Twitter. Anyways, I don't need it. On December 19th, if you are in the New York City area, there is an official viewing party for the Indie Game Awards at Brooklan, BROOKLAN. It's a really dope bar. Some of the devs will be there, some media folks will be there. A lot of the nominees will be playable on their PCs, and we're just gonna hang out, have a drink, and watch the awards. So
And you can
Come
watch
hang.
the awards
at home
anywhere.
also. Yeah.
Yeah, in your pajamas if you want. And you can watch this podcast anywhere on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. The Indie Council has its own socials. At the Indie Council on Blue Sky and basically everywhere else. But this last session of the year is closed. Go play some indies.
Justice for Arctic Takes.